Picture this. It is Monday morning, and instead of bouncing between 10 browser tabs, Slack, Notion, your calendar, and three different dashboards, you type one simple slash command. A few seconds later, your research is done, your outline is drafted, your tasks are created, and your inbox is already triaged. You did not open a single extra app. You did not copy and paste anything. But here is the twist. The thing doing all of this is not a human assistant. It is Claude Code running a hidden command mode most people have never touched. Most people use Claude like a smarter chat box. You ask a question, it answers, and then you go back to juggling tools by hand. But power users like Ethan Nelson, who says he has built and sold over $200,000 of AI systems in the last year, treat Claude Code as something very different. For them, it is an operating system for work, a control layer that sits on top of all their tools, data, and routines. In a minute, you are going to see how one slash command can run what looks like an entire production team on autopilot. Think about your own day for a second. You plan in Notion, capture ideas in Apple Notes, chase direct messages in Slack, draft in Google Docs, and monitor half a dozen software dashboards. Every task hides a recipe you run manually. You remember what comes first. You open the right apps, you search for the right docs, then you rewrite the same instructions for your AI over and over. Here is the pattern break. Claude Code is designed to rip those recipes out of your head and turn them into automated systems you trigger with a single command. Ethan's own content pipeline is a perfect example. He has one process for capturing ideas, another for searching his Notion database, another for mining YouTube for titles and hooks, then script drafting and refinement. Today, most creators run that as a mental checklist and a mess of tabs. Inside Claude Code, it becomes a reusable workflow that runs the same way every time. And here is where it gets interesting. The secret weapon is not just prompts. It is custom commands that orchestrate a whole team of specialized agents for you. Commands in Claude Code are not glorified macros. A prompt alias just pastes text into chat. A command behaves more like a workflow engine that knows what to do next, which tools to call, and how to pass context between them. Under the hood, each command is just a markdown file sitting in a hidden .claude/commands folder. But that file does not hold one prompt. It defines a multi-stage process, which agents to invoke, which MCP tools to hit, and how to route outputs from one step into the next. This is where your job title quietly starts to change from prompt writer to workflow designer. Imagine you type/create dash content. Claude reads that markdown mission brief and spins up a pipeline that feels like a real production system. One agent clarifies your idea. Another hits a Notion MCP to pull 50 or 60 relevant notes. A YouTube research agent analyzes titles and hooks in your niche. Then, an outline generator and script writer take over, with revision passes tuned to your voice. But here is the part most people miss. Each of those steps is a different agent with a narrow job, wired together by the command file like a director calling cues on a set. Multi-agent workflow sounds like buzzwords, but in Claude Code it is very concrete. A single command coordinates several specialized agents to execute a process end to end. You might have a Notion research agent, a YouTube title researcher, a hook specialist, and a script writer, each with different tools and context windows. The command tells them when to wake up, what to read, and what to hand off. Here is the payoff. It starts to look like a high-performing human team, just compressed into one/command that runs in seconds instead of hours. Let us walk through Ethan's real content machine, because this is where it feels almost unfair. He starts with /ideate and drops in a simple idea, like how AI gives individuals more leverage to run one-person businesses. That single line triggers the whole workflow. First, the Notion research agent hits his personal knowledge base through a Notion MCP, searching across notes, quotes, and saved ideas. In his demo, it surfaces around 60 relevant results in seconds. But here is the kicker. Those raw hits never go straight into a script. A dedicated Notion research synthesizer agent takes over next. Its job is to compress that 60-note firehose into a tight research pack. It clusters themes, highlights the strongest quotes, and builds a coherent backbone for a video instead of dumping links. Then Claude Code fans out to the internet. Separate YouTube agents spin up, one focused on titles, another on hooks, another on packaging. They treat YouTube as a dataset, mining patterns like how X will Y or why everyone is sleeping on Z. And here's the curiosity hook. All of this is still being driven by that one original /ideate command. Once research is done, a synthesizer agent steps in as the orchestrator. It merges personal Notion findings, YouTube trend data, and the original idea into one structured brief. Key arguments, narrative angle, supporting examples, even suggested segments. That brief becomes the single source of truth. Only then does the copywriting agent move. And instead of blindly drafting, it asks clarifying questions about your audience, tone, video length, and call to action. This changes who gets hired next. Because when a one-person business can spin up a whole content department from a single command, the leverage curve tilts. So, how do you actually build one of these commands yourself? It starts simple. Inside any project folder, Claude creates a hidden .claude directory with a command subfolder. Every custom /command, like /ideate or /journal, maps to a markdown file in there. A file named ideate.md becomes /ideate. Rename it to create.md, and your trigger becomes /create. You are literally editing the vocabulary of your personal operating system by renaming files. A basic command file looks like a slightly overachieving README. At the top, you define metadata like name, description, and a list of agents. Below that, you write instructions in plain language. For example, capture and clarify the user idea, call the Notion research agent, call the YouTube agents, then synthesize everything into an outline and next actions. Those agent entries are where the multi-agent workflow comes alive. And here is the payoff. You do not even have to write that structure by hand. You can ask Claude Code to scaffold the command for your full content process, and it will generate and save the file for you. Behind every strong command is a set of strong agents. Creating an agent in Claude Code starts with a ruthless system prompt. You define its purpose, boundaries, and handoffs, like you are writing a job description. You might say you are a Notion research analyst, you only answer from the Notion MCP, and you return structured JSON for downstream agents. Each agent becomes a tiny microservice with a single job. Stack enough of these, and a single command becomes a control panel for your entire stack, from Slack and tasks to calendars and even shell commands. The bridge between these agents and the real world is something called MCP, the Model Context Protocol. Think of MCP servers as clean, typed connectors to external data and APIs. Instead of stuffing every tool into one giant context window, MCPs expose specific capabilities that agents can call on demand. A Notion MCP lets an agent query multiple databases and pull 60+ notes. A YouTube MCP lets another agent hunt for high-performing titles and hooks. The command does not know the details of each API. It just knows which agent to call and when. But there is a hidden cost to all this power, and you need to know it. Tokens. Multi-agent workflows that touch multiple MCPs can burn through context like a GPU on launch day. Every time an agent reads, summarizes, and refines, you are paying in tokens. Ethan's content pipeline pulls about 60 Notion results, synthesizes them, runs YouTube research, then drafts and revises a script. Each stage adds prompts, responses, and tool calls that balloon total usage. When you chain a Notion researcher, a YouTube title agent, a hook specialist, and a scriptwriter, you are multiplying context overhead. So the game is not just, can you automate this, but can you automate it efficiently? That means designing agents that are narrow and focused, trimming unnecessary context, and reusing synthesized summaries instead of raw data whenever possible. It also means being intentional about when you run full workflows versus lighter versions. In the new orchestrator economy, your skill is not just prompting. It is architecting systems that give you leverage without burning your budget. And in a moment, I will tell you why that might be the most important career shift of the next decade. Step back and look at what Claude Code commands really represent. They move your workflows out of your brain and into code you can trigger, tweak, and scale. Your recurring processes stop being tribal knowledge and start being assets. That has real stakes. If you can turn your content pipeline, your meeting prep, your client onboarding, your daily planning into /commands, you are effectively building a life OS, a living operating system for how you work and think. People who learn to orchestrate these agent teams will not just be more productive. They will be the ones designing how entire companies operate. So where do you start if you want to build this for yourself? Begin with one workflow you repeat every week. Maybe it is a newsletter, a weekly review, or a YouTube script. Map the steps on paper. Then, inside Claude Code, ask it to create a command that runs that process end to end. Let it scaffold the markdown, define a couple of agents, and wire in one MCP like Notion or YouTube. Run it. See what happens, then iterate. You are not memorizing prompts anymore. You are editing your operating procedures. The people who master this will not just have faster days. They will have something like a digital nervous system they can plug new tools into at will. As more of your stack becomes accessible through MCPs, your commands can start reaching into Slack, your CRM, your calendar, even your local files. That is the orchestrator economy. Your value is in how well you design the playbook and how clearly you define the roles your agents play. If that sounds like the kind of leverage you want, now is the time to start building. If you want more deep dives on Claude Code commands, multi-agent design, and building your own Life OS, hit subscribe right now so you do not miss the next breakdown. Drop a comment telling me which workflow you want to automate first, and I might turn it into a full walkthrough. And if you made it this far, you are already thinking like an orchestrator, not just a user. The only question left is this: what is the first thing in your business you are going to turn into a single slash command?